Thank you very much. My name is Talia. I'm a social worker. First, I'm a social worker. I'm proud to say it. I'm also a researcher and educator in social work in Tel Aviv University. First, I want to thank Kuti and Mary for preparing the ground for what I'm going to speak about. In general, I'm going to speak about the development of social work education in Israel and about also the development of the standards that developed over the years. It is well known that global professions like social work have been influenced both by transnational exchange of knowledge on ideas and on values, but also social work had greatly been influenced by locality, by events and processes at the local state. But what I will try in my lecture is to put much emphasis on the standards of quality in a way that will enable you to consider whether these standards are relevant to you and that we can be modified and applied to contexts that are other than the Israeli neoliberal welfare state. Well, we cannot speak about quality, transparency, equity, efficiency, and other accountability and other elements of evaluation without talking about the education. About social work education, because social work education, its main outcome is to raise the capacity of students to perform the practice that will help the well-being of their clients. And also, one of the outcomes of social work education is to increase the readiness to not only practice social work, but also to evaluate it. This is very important to talk about social work education because research tells us, and have been indicated, that social work education, although being the first step in the socialization for the profession of social work, has a great ongoing impact on the decision-making, professional decision-making of social workers when they are already started their job and they're performing their everyday job on social services. I will speak only briefly about the origins of the education of social work because I want to put more emphasis on the standards that have developed through time and about the challenges that pushed and caused social work education to advance and to develop more and more quality of standards of quality. Generally, we know that social work education is influenced by social work international trends, changes in the characteristics and the needs of social care services users, and by reforms in the regulation in welfare policy. But in the case of Israel, as you already know from Kuti and Mary, social work education, like social work profession, has adapted itself to major social and cultural changes. Israel is a young democracy which is characterized by multiculturalism and diversity, like Kuti emphasized earlier. And all this forced social work education to rapidly advance throughout the years. More than 10 years before the establishment of Israel, as Kuti said, the social work department, the first social work department had been established by Henrietta Sold. Henrietta Sold was a leader of a Jewish American, you can call it mothers or sisters it was a social movement. And she, when establishing the first school, she preferred to draw upon the efforts of German social work education, German social work, social welfare, in its principles. And one of the reasons for that, it was when, before Israel was founded, they knew that they are going to expect a large influx of immigrants from Germany and from South Africa that were forced to flee out of their origin countries and come to Israel, not only for religious, but also for economic reasons. So, because of the mass population of immigrants from Germany, she preferred to establish the social work and social work education on German social work principles. Also, among the Jewish immigrants from Germany, there were 55 trained social workers, and among them was 50 years old Sidi Voronsky. All of them, all these social workers and Sidi Voronsky was well trained in German social work schools, and they were much influenced by Alice Salomon and her methods. As you probably, maybe you've heard of her. She was a very active German social work educator, and she was very dominant in developing the German social welfare work. Sidi Voronsky was one of her students. She was also very, very famous in Germany. It is worth mentioning that she has served as the head of the Archives of Social Welfare in Berlin in the beginning of the previous century. And she established the first school on 1934. At the beginning, the courses were only 2 weeks. They were for volunteers, also for trained social workers. But quite quickly, it was extended to a year-long social work course. Sidi Voronsky taught almost all of it, and it included theoretical courses and, of course, fieldwork. Fieldwork was there from the very beginning. And she also recruited lecturers that came as volunteers. And it's important to say that at the time, that the Jewish committee, under the mandate of the colonial power of the British at the time, they did not devote any money to the school. It was perceived as a voluntary work, and therefore the school relied on entirely upon tuition fees that the students were paid, donation, and the goodwill of guest lecturers. Even the fieldwork supervisors were not paid. They were doing it as a volunteer work. We recently found notebooks of one of the students in the 1941 course, and besides the evidence for the curricula I'm going to speak about, she also emphasizes very much in her notebooks. It's amazing. It's written with hand print, and it was very exciting to discover that in one apartment in Tel Aviv. And what we were very excited about, that she was writing, she was mentioning a lot in the notebooks, that when you're a social worker, your social work is for the treatment, for the therapy of the people. And that emphasizes that discourse at the time, that social work was to serve not only the individual, but also the culture of and the people as a collective society. And that has much in common with the German social welfare work. The first class, initially, it was in one single room in Voronsky's apartment at her home, and it was only consisted of 4 students. But later on, the number of students grew much rapidly. Basically, the curricula of the first school drew upon the German social welfare, as we said, and it reflected both the focus on the needs of the individual, but also the need to serve the society, the need to serve the people, the need to serve their culture. And the subject that were firstly taught were public welfare, economics and social policy, psychology and pedagogy, public health and healthcare, and law and public administration, and of course field training, field placement. Well, the eligibility standards are very interesting. You had to live in Palestine for at least 10 years to be familiar enough with the condition of the country. They are very complex, as Mary and could have said. Speaking Hebrew, maybe a little bit of Arabic, and you had to work for at least 5 years before that, and you have to have a knowledge in education or in healthcare. One of these two things, you have to have them before you even apply to the school. Although these standards were quite strict, over the 40s until the end of the 40s, it was something like with 91 graduates from the school. But on the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, the school had moved to the inspection of the Ministry of Social Welfare at the time. But it is very important to say that although social work education did not be integrated within the university, it still was inspected by the Hebrew University, which was the only university at the time, some lecturers from the Hebrew University are also taught in the school. So we can see that academia is finding its way inside the practical first social work Israeli school. It is worth mentioning that on the 50s or 1950, another school was established under the supervision and the sponsorship of the municipality of Tel Aviv. So again, the locality is something that influenced the development of social work education. I don't want to speak again about the major problems and the major processes, because really I think that Kuti spoke about it largely. We know that also not only the mass problems like war and subsidized immigration has affected the social work education, but also the growth and the expansion of social services, and that required to enlarge the workforce of social workers quite rapidly. And another factor that influenced and pushed social works to the academia, to the universities, was a very important report by Philip Klein. Philip Klein was an American social work educator and researcher who was advising the Israeli state, the government, as a part of the United Nations Technical Assistance Program. And he then, on the 50s, filed a scathing report on the social policy of Israel. But in addition to this very, very criticizing report, he also filed 2 additional reports. The first one of them was on the needs of social work education. He knew that social work education could develop and could increase the quality of social services, of regulation. And the second thing, on the second file, was a proposal of social work curricula. He actually made a curricula of courses that the Israeli government could rely on. And it was also made clear at the time, due to the major changes in the society, that social work education should move into the academia, to the universities. And I want to put this in his own way. He said, Professor Philip Klein said that social work programs at universities should include not only education of theoretical subjects and field training, it also should conduct academic research. And he criticized the way that social work education was mandated by the government, by politicians, and it should demand, it should claim his academic freedom. That's a very, very interesting notion about social work. Well, after a long period of agreement, social work education had fully integrated within the university system at 1958, and it included for the first time a 3-year program. That at the end of it, the graduate social work students will gain a BA, academic BA, and the goals of the school was not only to teach practical and theoretical courses, but also, and this was something new, the students and educators were obliged to conduct research on social problems and on the practice and on the services, on the regulation as well. On 1969, another school was established in Tel Aviv, and later on in Haifa University in the north, and in Beersheba, in the Ben-Gurion University. And later on, quite quickly, these schools were offering a master in social work. And a large group of social workers were returned. They decided to return to university. They also being specialized in research, and they were conducting research thesis. And that, of course, opened the door for PhD social work programs. That were the first PhD programs in Israel. And all this, and also the obligation to conduct research, is a part of a set of standards that is expected by the Council of Higher Education. Also, the fieldwork is much supervised. Well, only when obtaining a BA, a BSW in social work, students can apply to receive their license from the Ministry of Social Welfare. So it means that if you want to do social work, if you want to practice social work, you have to finish successfully 3 years of academic program with 3 years of training and learning to conduct research. It is quite surprising that although universities have been very strict with the curricula, they've been very successful in attracting social workers to come back to the universities. And now we know that 60% of social workers have a master in social work. As I said, many of them also conduct master thesis on the MA. Of course, fieldwork has been integral from the first steps of social work education, and the training of the regulation of the training is also regulated by the Ministry of Higher Education. The school of the Ministry of Social Welfare remained and gained much importance, which I'm going to speak about in a short minute. During its academization, it is another subject that is had very much influence on social work education, the Israeli social work education, is that many of the educators of social work in Israel studied in the 50s and in the 60s in North America, in the universities in North America, and then they were coming here to teach at the universities. And what happened is, because the American social work education is very clinically oriented, what happened is that the social work education in Israel became very, very clinically oriented and focused more on therapy and individual therapy. And what happened is that other subjects like community work, group work, social administration, and management administration all became peripheral. And another challenge is because social work educators, because they are part of the universities, They are required and they are valued and promoted according to their research productivity and according to the number of publications that they have. That made many of the social work educators to stop practicing social work and to concentrate on research. And now we know that universities more and more accept faculty members that they have limited experience in social work practice, and even none. Some of them even have none experience in social work practice. And that, of course, you can imagine the impact of this to the readiness of social work students to perform and to practice social work in the field. It is also claimed that it is not scientifically proven, but it is also claimed that because of that, during the years, 7 colleges, public colleges in Israel, are now offering, they established a department of social work, they are offering a BSW, social work, and these, although we know that these college and the faculty members also need, now they are valued according to their academic performance, but we know that these colleges were very effective, it was very inclusive also in terms of providing access to academia to disadvantaged groups. And then we know that these students that came from very hard families and from disadvantaged groups are now becoming a part of social workforce, and that is very helpful because they know the hardships of their clients. It is also important to say that as a part of the universities and colleges, the social workers, social work students gain much integrative theoretical and practical knowledge. However, the School of the Ministry of Social Welfare have been very effective in a few ways. In one term, it helps and it gives the social workers opportunity to gain expertise in several social work practices like forensic social work, community practice, managerial work, child welfare, inspection, and so on. And this school is, because it's not part of a university, it's a part of a very much flexible system, it can respond to changes in regulation much quicker than universities. And therefore, it has been very, very effective in embedding the regulation in social work services. This school, to date, there are 300 training courses for approximately 5,000 social workers, and almost half of the social workers in Israel, which who are studying each year at the school. So this school has much importance. Do that really quick. The change, you know what, I think that we already spoke about that, but we know that the also events at the local level, like social protests, and the change in the welfare model regime of social of Israel. These had affected dramatically social work education, because social work educators and students want to impact society, they want to impact their profession, and therefore we can see that the rise of new practices like anti-oppressive practice, policy practice, that are not only researched and also being taught in the universities, but the new public management also being embedded in the social services, and it also forced social work education to develop social worker skills in assessment, evaluation, and research quantitative and qualitative research in every evidence-based practice, of course. And we know that also the ministry, the School of the Ministry provides specific course for social workers who hold a role of knowledge management in the local social work services. And what I want to emphasize on that when social work students finish the VA program, he or she needs to know to research not only social problems, but also be reflective and research and evaluate his own practice, the practices in the services. So we are sending a force of researchers, social workers and researchers to evaluate what we're actually doing and can change and develop it over time to make it better. One last word about the standards of social work education. I just want to say that the Council of Higher Education invites international advisory group, committee that comes once in a few years to Israel, reviews the curricula and meet with social work students at all the programs, BA, MSW, and PhD, and to make sure that it meets the accreditation and the policy of international federation, and of course the American Social Work Council for Social Education. Last thing that I want to mention is that, you know what, just two things. You will give me a happy minute, please. We don't have in Israel, and this is one of the problems, we don't have in Israel an exam for every student that finishes, like in the US, an exam for every student that finishes the program, so we can make sure that the readiness is at the same level for everyone when they finish the school. So this is something to think about. How can we think about something without having this exam? And the last thing I want to say is that students now gain more and more impact on the curricula, and they want to put in it policy practice, client participation, anti-oppressive practice, all this new, they are not new actually, they are not very routinely embedded within social work education, and now we are working very hard with the students to set new standards that will also reflect their wishes